Good morning and welcome to the Alibi Security live webinar. This is our first live webinar of 2020. We're excited to be here with you guys and gals. We appreciate everybody joining us today. We are super excited to have our second edition of Coffee with Keith. We got our buddy Keith Becker here, who's the lead product manager, senior product manager with us, who oversees the Alibi Cloud VS. And we're going to be diving into some specifics around compliance with Alibi Cloud VS today. As we look at the agenda, we're going to keep this to a tight 30 minutes. We are going to talk a lot about how you sell in cloud to customers that have compliance issues. And when we talk about compliance issues, there's a whole host of things that kind of fall under that, and we'll get into those specifics here in just a little bit. Before we do that, for those folks who are new and who have never attended an Alibi Cloud VS seminar, I kind of want to start with some of the basics. We want to talk a little bit about what Alibi Cloud VS is, and just to kind of, again, reestablish foundations for those who are new to the Alibi Cloud VS webinar before we dive into specifics around the solution. So when we talk about Alibi Cloud VS, we're always going to talk about it here at Alibi Security as being simple, scalable, and secure, right? And when we talk about the camera to cloud solution, it's really simple in the fact that all you're really doing with the solution is installing a camera, right? You connect it to your local network and boom, it is connected to the cloud and ready to record to the cloud. So from a simplicity perspective, there's probably not an easier solution out there. I think Keith would agree with that. And then when we talk about scalability, the ability to access and manage really an unlimited number of cameras and an unlimited number of users through a really simple, intuitive user interface that's available both on your desktop and your mobile app, it's super, super powerful. I mean, the ease of use, the ease of understanding, the ease of using the cloud solution via the computer or your mobile devices is unparalleled. And then when we talk about secure, cloud always conjures up cybersecurity issues, or is it really secure? This solution is incredibly secure. Our cloud server system is a T4 cloud data center. You can go into a lot of detail online looking to see what a T4 data center means. It is, to kind of put it in perspective, it's the same type of data center that the biggest financial institutions in the world use to house all of their data. So that kind of gives you a really simple background and kind of grounds you in what Alibi Cloud VS is and how we talk about it from a simple, scalable, and secure perspective. And the other key points to hit here are that, with the Alibi Cloud solution, what you're really doing is eliminating some of those traditional failure points that we see in traditional systems. And this isn't meant to bash traditional systems. We sell tons of traditional systems, right? This is really meant to show you that as an alternative, when you look at the common maintenance that happens with traditional systems, hard drives and recorders are really kind of the main failure points in most of those systems, right? Well, this completely eliminates that, right? You're going directly from camera to cloud. I'm taking the maintenance associated with firmware updates or adding storage in order to make sure your customer has the right amount of capacity to store all the video out of the equation, right? And we do allow for 24/7 cloud recording, viewing, right? A lot of the other cloud-based services out there are really clip-based. And really what this allows you guys to do is really mitigate service trips, right? And again, like I said, with the storage options, if your customers end up needing more storage from our cloud solution, it's as easy as placing a call, letting us know you want to upgrade, you want to reduce storage requirements. We typically find customers, they get 7 days and they want 14 days or they want 30 days. That's easy to do really with the flip of the switch. So, when we talk about cloud, it's really super simple, super easy, scalable, secure. Those are the kind of the rallying points that we have here as a company. So anyway, enough about me. The dumb marketing guy's gonna done talking. We're gonna get the product manager, the expert on cloud involved here. But first, before we get into kind of talking about compliance solutions and applications, I know we have a big announcement to make.
Big announcement, yeah.
Big announcement.
So as we talked about in previous sessions, we're looking at expanding our supported cameras for the solution. As of this week, Monday of this week, we've officially started to launch some standard Alibi supported cameras for the solution. So there's 8 models that we released on Monday. We have one coming possibly as early as next week that'll be added to the support list. And then by the end of the month, we'll have probably close to 20 to 22 cameras that'll be on our supported Alibi list. So it definitely broadens the choices in terms of the physical design of the cameras, different features from IR range to ultra low light, just to make it a little easier to meet those physical needs that dealers tend to ask for on the product.
Yeah, and these are a lot of the most popular cameras. These folks are familiar with installing and using already, right?
They are. These will be pretty much the entire series of Starlight models, ranging from 2 to 6 megapixel. We still have a 1080p recording limit, but the sensors in some of these higher res cameras, like the 6 meg Starlights, just provide incredible video at night. So we wanted to make sure we added as much support as we could. And along with that, we're going to be allowing customers to go back to existing systems and load firmware that will actually convert cameras into cloud supported cameras if someone did want to move from an on-premise to a cloud-based solution.
That's awesome. That's great. So Keith's been working really hard with our development partners on getting this done. And like I said, you're going to see a lot of your favorite, the most commonly used, the dealer favorite cameras rolled out as able to be integrated with cloud. And the set right now is about 9. That will expand to 20 plus here in the next few weeks / months. So we're super excited about that. Now, before we jump into compliance, one more thing, and again, this is something I want Keith to talk about is, we mentioned it before during our last coffee with Keith, but cloud, it's been out there for a while, but why did we suddenly just now get into cloud and roll out a cloud solution, right? And what is the opportunity for the folks who are with us on the webinar today to really expand or grow their business with this solution?
No, absolutely. So cloud is one of the fastest growing segments in our industry, let alone, most industries. The market is just continuing to grow, and it's customer demand. People are migrating their risk by not having certain equipments that used to be in their own IT closet. They're putting that up at a data center because they don't have to, one, have someone maintaining the physical server. They're not having to worry about updating it on their own, worrying about if the hardware is basically aging out. Everything's got a life expectancy on it, from hard drives to servers to CPUs. They're going to start to underperform. When you move to a cloud-based system, the data center does the updates. So we do that hardware maintenance, we do the hard drive maintenance, we do all of that for you. But I mean, the global market for cloud is, it's approaching 3 billion. The North American market, again, is growing almost 28% year on year. And if you look at all the trends this year, the 2 biggest growth factors for our industry are going to be cloud-based storage management. And with that comes some natural advantages into like the AI world, where we can do more smart analytics, machine learning, and then that is a much easier solution to deploy whenever you can do it from a central control point versus having to do it on each individual edge device that's out in the field.
That's awesome. Yeah, and with the prevalence of cloud just in consumers' daily life, if you're not talking to customers about cloud, I would expect customers to start coming to you asking about cloud security, video security solutions, because the cloud is really infiltrating every part of our lives, whether it's Spotify or streaming, whether it's smart devices, the Internet of Things. Cloud is all around us. So we're excited that you all are joining us for this, because we feel like we're on the precipice of something really, really big with this solution. So now we're going to get into kind of the meat of the topic today. So we appreciate you guys sticking with us as we kind of cover off the foundation. We talk about cloud solutions and kind of the growth opportunity, right? Compliance is something that a lot of people don't want to think about, but they need to think about, right? Whether they're a small business owner, whether they're a retailer, whether they're installing video security in a restaurant or bar, or a nursing home or a daycare, video security can be a very, very important tool for them covering their assets and protecting themselves out in the marketplace. So why don't you talk a little bit about kind of the 2 key scenarios that we really think about when we're talking about video security related to compliance, Keith?
Yeah, so compliance can be broken down. We listed here as like 2 main issues. Number 1 is more of a company-driven compliance rule. So if you're, say, a retailer, a small business, you may have your own compliance rules that say we want to protect ourselves against crimes, litigation, whatever it may be, for an X period amount of time. And that can be driven by an internal process that the company just puts in place, or it could be driven by, legal statutes that are out there. The second would be meeting the minimum requirements by law. So certain industries are state-driven or federally driven in terms of how long video has to be retained, where it has to be retained, how secure it has to be. And that's more of a, we have to do this, or we can get ourselves into a kind of a fine situation where we're starting to have to pay money when we don't meet those guidelines.
Right, which could ultimately lead to getting shut down if you don't fundamentally comply with a state law or a federal law.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. So two key areas that we're talking about, right? Proactively protecting a business or an asset, and then fundamentally meeting requirements that your business has to adhere to under law. So we'll dive into some of the specific industries now, where when you're out there looking to sell cloud solutions, really the opportunity is unlimited. So when we talk about compliance as being critical, you think about medical or hospitals. I know somebody personally who works in a surgery center. They had an incident where somebody got into the pharmaceutical closet, right? They didn't have a video system that could capture that. I think they had access control, but they didn't have video verification of that, right? You think about education. There are times where educators, especially in counseling offices, may need to record some conversations that they have with kids and or parents and or staff members when they're dealing with a specific issue. Bars and restaurants are absolutely critical. Yeah, and it's a big one. Why?
So, when you break this down compliance-wise, so if we go through the list here, retail, bars and restaurants, any type of small business. When you think about video security, a lot of people think about crime, but what they don't really think about is litigation. So if I'm a retailer and I've got, a great example, liquor stores are a great one. They've got bottles everywhere on shelves. Those bottles fall, they create a hazard on the floor. Someone walks by, they slip, they hurt themselves, they cut themselves on the glass, whatever. They can basically walk out of that store and say, no, I'm fine, everything's great.
Right.
Most states have anywhere from 1, sometimes 5 years of a statute of limitations before they have to file a lawsuit. Now, obviously, they want to file the sooner the better. It worked for their case. But if someone slips and 9 months later they file, a lawsuit against that retailer saying, hey, I hurt myself, if you don't have video evidence to back it up, you're basically looking at possibly a settlement. And the average settlement cost in this country for slip and falls is usually between $30,000 and $40,000. So when you think about being in compliance to build a video solution that can mitigate that risk, you're going to spend a lot more money on lawsuits than you would trying to put video either into a secure facility on site, but easier, I should say, putting it into a secure data center with a cloud solution.
Right.
Bars and restaurants is a great one. People always forget about servers coming in and out of doors, where they do a lot of mopping. Someone can slip going to the bathroom. You kind of never know when you might have someone decide, hey, we're going to sue you because we believe we can get some money out of it. Right. You bring up medical. Hospitals is a great one. HIPAA compliance is a big deal. So when it comes to best practices for video security, it's not only where the cameras are looking. You obviously have to make sure you're not capturing sensitive patient information, but it's who has access to be able to see the video. You have to have limited, a security plan in place that can limit who can see what cameras. Who has
and when.
Right. You have to build, if the recorder's on site, you have to build a secure plan in place with access control to the facility. You have to be able to do audit trails on who had access. If there's a monitor on it, you have to make sure that the monitor doesn't automatically pop up views for default for every user. So it gets you have to have certain things there to make sure you're complying with the HIPAA rules. With cloud, because it's virtual, there's no server. So there is no physical access you have to worry about maintaining because no one can get to the recorder.
Right.
Secondly, because it is remote access, your user credential management is all done virtually. So you're giving whoever needs access to the system a specific credential. They have to log in their own mobile device, their own PC, and we can do audit trails in the VS solution down to the user level to see when they logged in, what cameras they looked at, what they were doing. It just makes it a lot easier because it's one centralized database. and you're not having to secure any of that on your own.
Right. Well, I know we're going to get to this. I think it's on the next slide, and so I'll do a little spoiler alert. But when you think about people protecting their business, not knowing, if an incident happened, and then having that person who was involved in that incident, and slip and fall is a great one, right? Absolutely. You got restaurants, you got soda fountains, you got drink stations, and there's wet floors and ice all over. Somebody trips and slips and falls. One of your employees doesn't see it happen. Nobody's notified that there's been an incident, but then 2 years later, that person comes back and wants to sue you because the neck injury that they sustained or the back injury is flared up again, and they want to get compensation for it, right? Absolutely. Having the foresight to install an on-prem system, right, that has enough storage so that video doesn't get overwritten. Again, you can offload that video if you know the incident happens, but if you don't know what happens, having that cloud-based solution with a long enough storage time where you feel comfortable based on what you're trying to manage against, right? To know that video is in the cloud, that if you need it, is really it's a nice security blanket to have, right?
Absolutely. And we talked earlier, like, it's not to say that you can't build out a security plan with an on-premise recorder.
Yeah.
It's just there's more involvement when you do it that way, because you are now taking on the responsibility for future-proofing the size of the system, maintaining the hard drives, maintaining the physical security.
Right.
So we can absolutely do that with other Alibi solutions. Cloud just kind of makes it easier.
Right.
All you're really doing is saying, how long do I need to record for, and how many cameras?
Right.
And a license changes that. And if you're a retailer, you say, I think 30 days will cover me. After 30 days, you get a lawsuit. You realize 30 days wasn't enough. You upgrade your license. You immediately start to extend your storage in the data center by that license.
Right.
You're not
doesn't require a trip.
No trip. There's no additional hard drive space you have to worry about. Is there an extra bay, say, in the recorder I installed to be able to upgrade the hard drive? Or do I need to put larger drives in where I lose the evidence? Or if someone wants to try to, you can rotate drives and try to get real creative with an on-premise by shelving drives and trying to play them later. But now it's more physical maintenance. It's a longer term, harder solution to maintain.
Right. Well, and as we're talking about this, in my head, I think about the beauty of cloud as kind of a hybrid solution, right? As we're talking about compliance, really what we're arming you guys with is the ability to ask the intelligent questions within these industries, right? To when you're talking to a retailer, talk to them about their exposure from a business perspective, right? Build out an on-prem system that kind of covers 90% of it, but where they've got that one kind of exposed area, that hot zone, so to speak, where they may have more likelihood of a slip and fall accident, a doorway that may produce accidents with between the staff members, a bar area. Identify those areas, and cloud's a great solution to say, look, we can give you 24/7 coverage on that area for a year, for 2 years, just so you know that if anything happens in that hot zone, one of those places where you may be liable for a lawsuit down the road, we can cover that. Everything else could be captured on the on-prem system. So to me, it's not an either or, it's a nice complementary solution that just gives you guys flexibility to go out and find the right solution for your specific customers. So anyway, so we can go on. Let's talk a little bit about the length of time when we talk about some of these industries. We've tried to do a little due diligence in some of these maybe broad ranges, but when you start diving into exposure from a business perspective, and requirements, mandates at a state and federal level, doing a little research to help your customers up front so you can ask intelligent questions so you build that optimal solution is really, really important. And we kind of work together on putting this table together. It's probably the least sexy slide up here. It's like, it's very legal in nature, but why don't you cover some of these things when we talk about compliance?
Yeah, it may not be the prettiest thing to look at, but it's very valid information, right? Yeah. These are some of the industries that do have actual regulations, as well as just some of the statute laws written. Cannabis is a growing industry. Video security regulation for states that have legalized cannabis are pretty strict. The one listed there, for 90 days, that's a California law. So it's 24/7 recording. minimum 720p, 15 frames, and that has to record for at least 90 days.
Yeah.
And if you're not in compliance, you're subject to having state agencies come and evaluate your solution. And if you're not
They can show up at any time.
Anytime they
can
want.
show up at any time and make sure you're in compliance.
Correct. That's part of the rule. Colorado's been kind of the long-standing state that was kind of first to pass this, the legalization of it, and that's a 40-day minimum. And they have, they have strict rules around being able to legitimately store for 40 days. And if you sell your facility, you have to be able to prove that you can delete that video before you can sell the facility. So it kind of goes a lot of different ways. Banking is another great one. Banks, if it's an FDIC insured bank, you have to have video surveillance in place. ATMs, if you have an ATM working outside or inside the facility, 45 days minimum. The camera views come into a lot of this. So, it's not just compliance on storage, it's what are the cameras looking at? ATMs have to cover 3 feet. So the camera must cover all video within 3 feet of the ATM. So you got to get the right camera and then the right storage solution to be able to maintain that. And when you talk about banks, there's strict rules around cybersecurity. Everybody wants remote access to a system. The cloud solution makes it easier because we have very strict rules on how we make the handshake to get the cameras to the cloud. So you don't have to worry about messing with a lot of IT rules to make sure you're staying within, cybersecurity regulations for a lot of these.
And like banking, I think medical, I don't know, cannabis maybe, but it's like those that are beholden to specific state and federal rules. The IT piece of this, being able to not open up a port into a very secure network that has retail is another one that has customer data or protected medical information or financial information is a really, really big deal. Right?
Absolutely. It's trying to get everything more connected is just kind of the common theme that we have in the world.
Connected but not exposed.
Connected but not exposed. And that's hard to do in an easy fashion based upon certain rules that are in place for how remote networking works. So, when you think about customer information, the last thing you want to do in a retailer is have a security system be a vulnerability point for someone to gain access to credit card information.
PCI compliance.
PCI compliance. The other thing on storing, say, for a financial institution, the video needs to be encrypted in the file system. Very few on-premise systems do that, at least in kind of the standardized NVR solution. When you think about redundancy, we do triple redundant backup for all the video in the cloud. That's just part of it. That can be one camera. You're getting fully encrypted in transmission, fully encrypted at rest, and you're getting triple redundant storage for the cost of 10, 15, 20 bucks a month for that one camera. It just depends on the resolution you want. But cloud just makes it a little easier for us to offer some of these compliant rules on a small or even a large scale basis.
Right. Well, I know specifically on cannabis because it's a burgeoning industry, right? And it's exploding. New states are being added every year. They're all legalizing marijuana, right? The laws around cannabis, to your point, kind of started in Colorado. California has become the premier example of like stringency, and people have been adopting those rules and regulations as they've been legalizing the product. But one of the interesting things to me about cannabis, and we talk a lot about this, is they require an on-prem system, right? But then they require, and it specifies it in the regulations, they specify an off-premise view of the actual security system, right? Isn't that right?
Yes. So there are rules around making sure that the physical recorder is kept secure.
Right.
So it's kind of like you're having to put a video security system in place to watch your video
security system, right?
And that's, again, it's one of those, I would consider it overkill to some degree, but it's one of those where it's kind of like the rules for hospitals. You have to make sure that the recording video on site is not tampered with, and there's strict access control to who gets access to it. Yeah. The cannabis law, for some reason, goes really high over and says, hey, we want to make sure that not only do we have like a log report to say who got in the cage, who got into the box.
Yeah, right, because they have to be in a secure closet or room.
I want video, and they want video to be backed up off site to make sure that you're not having the video on the box be tampered with.
Right.
And when you go to cloud, no one has access to that physical drive, so they can't do anything to the server to try to manipulate it.
Right, and I take that cannabis example to other industries. You think about retail, right? Typically, a manager's office in a retail environment. It's a little room kind of tucked back in the middle of the building, right? A lot of times it doesn't have a door on it. If it does have a door on it, a lot of times it's not locked. The recorder is typically underneath the desk.
Absolutely.
On top of a desk. I mean, it's in places where it's vulnerable. So if there are employees or people who come in and they case the place, if they want to create, commit a crime and get rid of all the evidence, taking that recorder is pretty easy, right? So installing a cloud camera, like the cannabis example, would be a great additive solution to say, hey, look, I'm at least going to have one camera recording for 30 days, watching my video security equipment.
Yep.
Right?
It's a great add-on. It just helps make sure that you're protecting yourself against kind of maybe the limitations, and it may be a physical limitation of the building. You may not have a secure space in the building to put a recorder. It just needs to go in an office. So,
yeah. So again, when you're out there talking to customers, prospects, and you're exploring solutions, exploring their needs, these are a lot of the great questions to ask, right? Have they had employee theft? Do they have a high traffic environment where they really need to cover themselves from potential accidents or potential incidents that may happen in a bar environment or a club, something like that? And again, it's not an all or nothing. Cloud offers you a great hybrid solution to kind of fulfill any of those needs and make sure that they've got that video whenever a claim comes up. So. And the other thing we want to reiterate, and we've touched a little bit on it, is from a security perspective. We've talked about medical, we've talked about cannabis, which has a lot of laws tied around it. You talk about financial. The ability to sell solutions into those industries or verticals is really prohibited if you don't have a truly provable secure solution. And when we talk about the data centers that we're pushing all the video to, we've built this storage facility to the highest levels. T4 really means triple backup from a video perspective. So it's not only just getting pushed on the server once, right, recorded there, it's being duplicated 2 more times. There's redundancy from a power perspective. There's cooling elements to it. There's a whole host of technical specs that data center needs to meet in order to be considered T4. So when you're out there talking to customers and they start asking about where this stuff's being stored, you can confidently tell them it's stored in a T4 data center. If it's a bank, it's the same type of data center that you're using to secure all your financial transactions on. So there's no worries there, right? And the beauty of it, like Keith said before, is that data center, all the servers are constantly updated with the latest cybersecurity. So not only is the transmission encrypted when it's going up to the cloud, it's encrypted when it's on the servers, but then more importantly, there's tons of cybersecurity protocol and software that's constantly updated. The firmware for the cameras is pushed out automatically as well, so users are notified when there's a new firmware update with any additional cybersecurity for those edge devices as well. So it really eliminates the concern or the need to go out and update from a security perspective a lot of those devices. So just rest assured that it's a powerful, secure environment, and more importantly, it's based here in the USA too. All right, so we've covered a lot about cloud, we've covered a lot about compliance. One of the things we always like to reemphasize is, as you guys are thinking about cloud or you're getting used to bidding this as part of your solution set, is it's a great opportunity to generate RMR. If you're already selling Berg or Fire, you get recurring monthly revenue. It's a powerful tool. You start adding this to your toolkit of solutions that you're selling. You start adding a camera here. You start adding two cameras there. Over time, that recurring monthly revenue is just going to continue to build on itself. And over time, our hope is that you see a lot of success with cloud. That's one of the reasons we've rolled out Alibi cameras now as cloud enabled. You're comfortable with it. We want you guys to start quoting this and installing it. And over time, you're going to see a significant amount of income coming through from an RMR basis as you really sell this solution into your customer base. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't get any money up front, right? You're still having to install cameras. So from an install and camera hardware perspective, there's still margin to be made on that side of it. So that is something that you continue to receive, even if you're selling the cloud solution. Now, the other benefit to that is as you're installing cameras, right, there's still an install fee, there's still a hardware fee, but it really should take your techs and your installers a lot less time to install because they're not having to worry about setting up the recording device, configuring it, getting it ready for the user to use when they're on site. They're literally installing a camera, hooking up to LAN, and then we're connecting to the cloud, and away we go. And then as Keith mentioned before also, we're not having to worry about going out and upgrading hard drive space, updating firmware. All those things are done automatically for you. If customers want to upgrade their storage, they give us a call. We move them from 7 to 14 day, from 14 to 30 day with a flip of a switch. So it's super, super easy to maintain. And one of the other things we'll always tell you guys do is go out to alibisecurity.com. There's an Alibi Cloud link on the main nav of the website. There's a ton of great information there. Our YouTube channel, every webinar that we do is posted out there. Our launch webinar, when we initially launched Alibi Cloud VS, is out there. It's an hour-long webinar, goes into a lot more detail around the architecture of the system, a lot more of the technical information, just goes more in depth. So if this is your first time attending an Alibi Cloud VS webinar, we've just touched on a little bit on the solution, how it was built, who our core cloud partner is with that. Go out and view that webinar. Then there's a ton of other resources from a video perspective out there, as we've touched on retail applications for Alibi Cloud VS. There's another Coffee with Keith out there where I think we talked about multi-user and multi-site management. Just make sure when you're out on the YouTube channel, subscribe. That way you get alerted when we post new videos out there. And beyond Alibi Cloud webinars, there's tons of other information and content from a product knowledge, from a product video perspective that we're always publishing as we roll out new items. Third, contact your account manager for a live demo. I implore you guys to do that. Seeing this solution live and in person is super, super powerful. They'll share their screen with you. They'll walk you through the user management. They'll walk you through the interface so you can see the simplicity of this system once the camera's installed and how simple it is to use and manage, to review recorded video, to download clips and footage. It's super, super simple, but more powerful when you're seeing it live and in person. So do you have anything to add before we close this out?
Just contact your salesman. Start thinking about cloud more as it's a recording solution. You're going to sell a recording solution to a customer one way or the other. The question is, do you want it to be kind of an on-premise, I'm selling you a hardware solution, or do you want to turn your video business into more of I'm offering a service to you, right, an ongoing service that provides additional value?
Right. And I think a lot of that stems from just asking those right questions when you're bidding a job, when you're talking to prospects. Really understand their needs, and like I said, you'll find the opportunities where cloud's a great solution for them. And again, when you think about investing a small amount of money in a monthly subscription to ensure, or annual subscription to ensure that video is in a place that they can get it, that money is well offset by the savings from having to pay out from a lawsuit, right? Absolutely. And that's what compliance is all about. You don't want to have your business shut down. You want to mitigate any legal risk by having that video where you want it, when you want it. So we appreciate everybody attending today. Call your dedicated account manager. They're here to answer any questions that we haven't today on this webinar. Talk to them, get a live demo, and more importantly, start bidding cloud. Start including it on every one of the jobs that you go out and bid. It's an awesome solution, super easy to use, and more importantly, it's super powerful to solve your customers' challenges. Thanks for attending today. We'll see you next time on our live webinar series.